Okay, welcome everybody to Athena group meeting 10th of June 2024. And today we have Rutuja Lingampalli with us. Rutuja is a member of Athena group and she is a life coach who specializes in helping women find their voice. And today she'll be helping us understand how to stop seeking validation and how to become your best self. So now Rutuja will be speaking and we will be listening. And after that, we'll have a discussion. Over to you, Rutuja.
Thank you so much, Neha, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I have always been very drawn to working with women and understanding women. And me and Neha were brainstorming about the topics. And I thought, let me take something that I see every single day in my life coaching practice, which are these two patterns. One is people pleasing, where we say that, you sacrifice your needs, your real needs. We're not even talking about those, some extra extravagant wants that we all have. There are so many desires that everybody has. But we are also talking about, the bare minimum need that every human has. And somewhere in that glory of, sacrificing is a very good thing. Also, most of us are coming from a place where we are spiritually inclined. So it's said in spirituality, it's very good to forgive, you should not be getting angry, and all of those things are, which may not be very human when you're just starting in your self discovery. These things tend you to make compromises and adjustments on the things which are very important for you as a human being. To make it very simple for you to understand, those needs you will be okay compromising with yourself, but you will not be okay making those compromises made by your daughters, right? So you say, my child should not make this compromise, my son should not make it, my family should not make it, but I am okay to make it. And these are very little things, as we know that as women, very little things matter to us. The second is asking for validation for even doing very small things, and we tend to do those things more, which will validate us like either a good woman or whatever our need of appreciation is that. And why did we choose this topic is because when people pleasing and asking for validation crosses a certain extent, you see two very prominent things happening in your life. One is you have a lot of resentment because you have become empty now. As a container, you're empty. You have given, and you're empty. And you'll see that anger penting up inside of yourself. And you will feel like saying that, why am I responsible for everything? Why am I responsible for the person's emotions also, for their day-to-day lives also? These are things that women say during the sessions. That's resentment. And when resentment becomes a lot in your system, body system, you also see that it takes up certain coercive diseases. It turns into diseases. And in energy medicine, there are research that is going on that how resentment turns into certain diseases. And we are seeing those hormonal diseases increasing in women. That is also one of the very big reasons. And sometimes you're not able to trace it, that it may be happening at an emotional level. Resentment is one. Second, your indecisiveness. The indecisiveness that comes, we go to so many people that tell me what to do, what is the solution, tell me what to do, what is the solution. And in that case, you may also end up listening to a lot of people whose voice is not aligning with yours, which does not feel authentic to you, and you keep on doing those things, and one day you are so disconnected to yourself that without external validation, now your life cannot function. And how does this play out in our life? In very small ways. For example, somebody did not reply to your messages in time, or somebody said that that's not looking good on you and you don't ever wear it again, one of those things. Or you start eating those dishes which everybody else may like, and you forget. There's a very beautiful movie called as Lapata Ladies, where they say that, I forgot that I used to like this dish. We look at these things as very small things, but they add up, and that becomes a habit of doing things. So that is why we are discussing these two things. And the after effect of working on these things turns into you becoming a person that is able to set boundaries and say that I'm okay with giving this much, and this is going to make my container empty. I don't want to do it. When you don't want to do it, you will understand the difference between what is authentic giving, that you give from your heart, and what you're giving to just fit into an environment or just to fit into a certain group. and you will be able to make decisions for yourself. This is the biggest sign that your self-worth has increased. You do not need so much of external validation now. You may need advices here and there, or you may need mentorship from people, but now you have a backbone. So having a backbone is one of the biggest qualities that we should start developing as we grow on our self-discovery journeys. So I will quickly share my screen. Okay, so let's start with what are the causes of these behaviors. And I gave some very small examples of it. And there may be even bigger examples of it where, for very small decisions, you're asking people. And sometimes for very big decisions as well, you end up asking people only for everything. A simple thing like, career. There are so many people, not only women, but the youth of this particular age where you are supposed to make your career decision, the 20s, the early 30s, where we are so confused about our careers. One, because social media validates something and we validate something as a person, which may match or may not match. Second things, your parents may validate a certain career for you. You may not be validating that career for yourself. That can also be a mismatch, right? So especially when you have sort of decided that my career path is going to be very unconventional, then though you have to work on your self-worth. There is no other way out for you. Let me give you a very small example of how this looks as we proceed. But one of the causes of the people-pleasing behavior and seeking validation is having low amount of self-worth. What is self-worth? Self-worth is the way you look at yourself. मतलब अपने नजरों में आपकी ही image is not important. You don't feel important as a person. You may logically say that I am very important for myself, but when it comes to your actions and behavior, you are not that important for yourself. Simple things like, women get very motivated about going to the gym or going for a yoga class, and when it comes for taking out that 1 hour for their physical and mental health, which is so necessary, they will say mujhe kaam hai. When you really want to do something, and I know everybody, each one of us is very busy in their lives, but for us we can devote 10 minutes, 15 minutes, छोटे छोटे टाइम से हम स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं. बट इवेंचुअली अपने लिए वो 1 घंटा निकालना, टेकिंग आउट दैट 1 hour for yourself, it's not that you are busy. That's not the only reason. The reason is the guilt that comes up with it. Oh my god, I'm going to leave my family, I'm going to leave these people for 1 hour, and then I don't want to do it. That is one of the reasons. Second is your fear of abandonment, that this irrational fear that can come up, that this person will leave me if I don't listen to everything that my parents say or my partner says. Then this person will leave me, may not be physically abandon you, but maybe emotionally abandon you, or you feel that emotionally you will be punished. Same leads to the fear of being punished. A lot of us think that if I make a mistake, this is very important, that why people don't make their own decisions, that if I make a mistake, then I will be punished. For example, there are some other life coaches who come to me and want to upload their videos, right? And first video will be the most imperfect video that you will upload, or your first presentation may be the most imperfect presentation that you will do. But that fear of being judged by somebody else, that fear of being criticized by someone else, speaking up in your office meetings, all of things come under this thing, that you have the fear of being punished. The next thing is having a very blurred sense of yourself. You think that your need of safety is always dependent on others. When we were growing up, yes, our sense of safety was dependent on our parents, and we didn't know maybe how to take care of ourselves. But even after we grow up to a certain age, even when we become adults, we are still a child who is scared of their parents. This is one of the things. Even if you're going out, you're still a partner who is scared of his other partner or her other partner, that what will this person think of me? Because you have not developed the lens of looking at yourself, a clear lens of looking at yourself. You've always looked up to yourself by others. And when we are children, we all do this. But once a certain age crosses, or once you have an awareness, that time you can develop this sense of self, which is the healthiest when you look at yourself rather than looking from a mirror that is distorted by its own self. For example, When people work with life coaches or counselors or therapists, we are sort of like a plain mirror which will mirror who you are really with questions. But if you take that from somebody else, somebody who does not maybe understand video editing or video presentation, and you take a feedback on your video from them, they will say something so nasty that will maybe make you even stop making the videos. So it's very important that from whose lens are you looking at yourself, and to select mentors and coaches and therapists and counselors from that perspective. The next comes is very important, that when I am over giving, what am I getting from this? One of the major problems for girls or even women, I can say, not being able to come out of the toxic relationships that they are in is because they are not just over giving, but they're getting something from that relationship. And what is it? It may be false, but that's a false sense of safety, a lot of maybe attention. So look for what are you getting, or at least you're perceiving that you're getting by overgiving, because that is your biggest need that you are missing in the world. For example, there are some people who can do anything for feeling appreciated, some people who can do anything for feeling loved. This is not the moment to judge yourself saying that, oh, I'm such a bad person, I can do anything for attention and love. Know that it is your need. And like your own unconditionally loving mother, which you can become for yourself, look at yourself like that and give that unconditional love to yourself. So how will you do it? I want to focus this session more about the how part. How will you do it? Let's say that you are in a career where it requires for you to put in efforts, but the results may not come right away, it will come after a long time. That time, you need a lot of patience with yourself. And what do we exactly do? We do the opposite. We beat ourselves up for it. We start criticizing ourselves. No, no, you have to make this happen. You have to, maybe, even if you're exhausted and tired, you want to just put in more hours. Even if you are exhausted and tired cooking for 6 days a week, you cannot take a break on the seventh day. So by saying all of these things, we neglect on something that the mind body system really needs, right? So working on the causes will help you to actually deal with this problem in a very effective way. So now we as human beings, we understand one thing very clearly, that we used to live in tribes. We used to live in groups, and that is why we love the group setup so much. We love socializing. We feel safe when we are in a community. So there are so many things that we do just to fit in, and there are so many things which a true community can give to us. And community is not a bad thing. Good social circles are not a bad thing. They can really, really promote your growth. And that's why I feel platforms like Athena are so important. So let's say a small example. In colleges, we see that we all want to be a part of a certain group. And we say that, okay, maybe in this group, everybody drinks. So this person who had decided in their life will not touch alcohol at all starts drinking. This happens in college, or this happens at a certain level. Or let's say a woman who may not like gossiping at her core, she hates it, but she sees that all other ladies are doing that, and she may feel the pressure of doing that. Otherwise, she will feel alone. So these are the behaviors that we do to fit into a certain setup. And again, here is to understand what is your need, why are you doing it, and then to give that thing towards yourself. So let's understand the difference between the two things, which is fitting in and real belongingness, that can happen in a group setup, or that can happen between two people. When you're choosing your friends, you're choosing your inner circle, you're choosing your partners. So whenever you're trying to fit in, you will do things to get love, attention, and safety. Like I said, maybe you don't want to drink alcohol, but you did that. Maybe you didn't want to consume a certain kind of food, but you did that. In belongingness, you do things to give love and attention. For example, you become a part of, let's say, a blood donation drive. You are not giving the blood to get the attention and love. You are not getting any attention and love. You're a part of the whole process. But the sense of liberation it feels to do something out of love. So the difference is, here you're doing to get love, here you're doing something out of love. And this will make a clear demarcation between the two things. Second thing is it will require inauthentic actions, doing something which is you are not really. You may not be the person that maybe let's say that you're a very progressive person and you sort of are always into the things where everything is being regressed, everything is very traditional. And after a certain time, you will have to choose that do I take up my progressiveness and be with myself, belong to myself, or I fit into this certain group. And the second thing is in belongingness, your actions will be authentic. Whatever you do for the other person will be from very, very authentic place. Third, as I said before, that fitting in or pleasing people breeds a lot of resentment. So after doing a certain action, check with yourself that am I feeling liberated? Am I feeling good? Or am I feeling that this was my thing, this was my need, but I gave it away? And when you are connected to yourself and when you're listening to your voice, it gives you a very clear signal. But for that, you really need to have some time in your day where you slow down and reflect on your actions. Most of the time we are in an autopilot mode where we are doing things, you're functioning continuously, and we sort of do not give ourselves the time to sit and reflect back on our actions. And when we do that, our body gives us a very strong signal that were you feeling expanded, because expansion is a real sensation in your body. Was I feeling expanded and liberated when I was doing this thing, or was I feeling resented? Now, talking about a very practical scenario, we all may have to do a little bit of things for others, because maybe we live in a family and all of that. But if it is draining you completely, where 100% whatever you're doing from that place of fitting in, then it will drain you completely. But most of the time you're doing things from a place of belongingness, and fitting is a very small percentage. That time you will not be so much exhausted. In fact, you'll be very happy in those relationships, you'll be very giving in those relationships, and that giving will come from a very authentic place. So what is the solution to all of this, that everything that we are talking about? So whenever you want to decide something for yourself and you feel that I need to take permissions from so many places, or I may end up disappointing certain people, then first thing you need to learn to do is to start approving yourself and appreciating yourself for even the smallest actions that you do. For example, for your well-being today, you joined this group, right? You attended this particular presentation and you are communicating with each other. This is a very big step in your self discovery, in your emotional healing, and that result may come afterwards. And when the result comes, the whole world will appreciate you. But the real challenge is to become that backbone for yourself till the time that result comes. And till that, learning to become your own person is going to be the biggest solution. And for that, instead of having that very critical voice that after getting ready you look in the mirror and say, oh my god, I'm not looking good today, or you say that what kind of video have I made, what kind of presentation, for example, if you mess up something in the kitchen saying ki I can't even do this small thing, mujhe itna bhi karna nahi aata. Look at it really. Is this your real voice, or is this your mother's voice, or father's voice, or partner's voice, or somebody else's voice? Right? So replacing that self criticism with self encouragement is the biggest key, and it goes a long way, because now you don't need a person to sit and clap for you and say come on, you can do it, but you become that person for yourself. And when you fall down, you also learn how to get back up. So you're not even scared of falling down now. You're not even scared of making mistakes now, because when you make that mistake, there comes the second point. Talk to yourself like the most unconditionally loving person would do. So imagine an unconditionally loving mother for yourself. And when the child falls down, the mother picks up the child and first hugs the child. And all the analysis is done afterwards. So when you fall down or something does not happen according to you, talk to yourself like the most loving person. Even giving a one small example, when a child starts to walk, right? First step, the baby step is the most imperfect step. And you see the parents clapping for the child. The parents don't say कि पता है when I took my first step how perfect and great it was, ऐसा नहीं बोलते वो. They're so happy with your first imperfect step. They're so happy with your first imperfect drawing that you ran to them and said कि ये मेरा drawing है, right? So getting so happy with your little creations and whatever you are doing in your life will bring up that spark, will bring up that creativity again inside of you. And even if you fall and even if you make mistake, saying that I will back myself up with these things. So these are the solutions when you have low self-worth, when you see that I am pleasing people a lot, and these are the things that are workable, right? So this was one aspect of the solution. Second very important aspect of the solution is to learning to take the responsibility of your own life. Whose life is this? This is my life. And whose problems are there in the life? My problems. So I will find the solution to those problems. A lot of times when you see that you in your head or some other person, we blame the other person for our life experience. We say just because this person in my life is so nasty, my life is like that. Just because this person is not giving me the permission, I cannot focus on my business. A lot of women say this, just because my relationship is not supporting this thing, I cannot do that. So we make these conditions in our head, right? And when you decide that this is my life and I am 100% responsible for creating my life experience, you feel that necessity to go ahead and take that action, whether it is in health, career, relationship, finances, whatever. You feel like, yes, this mind body is given to me, and like a mother, the most unconditionally loving mother, I'm going to take care of it. And like the most stable and protective father, I am going to encourage myself. I am going to say that I am this rock solid support system for you, and go ahead. Let's see what happens. What will happen the worst? You'll make a mistake, right? So again, we will cheer you up. We'll have that compassion for you. And then this becomes a pattern in your life. And you see that now you're not screwing up your own life, right? So taking responsibility is very important. Even if somebody else says something very critical to you, whether it's your boss or anybody says anything critical to you, ask yourself, what is my contribution into this? Okay, I need to change this thing. Do I really want to change this behavior or habit? Is it good for me? Try doing that. Appreciate yourself for it, and keep the things going, you being at the driver's seat of life. You can take inputs from people here and there, but know that you are in the driver's seat of your life. A lot of times, because our sense of safety is dependent on people, we think that I'm not strong enough to take the responsibility. That time we just let people take the responsibility, let people do it, because I don't want to take the blame. But what happens when you want to do important projects, when you want to do important things in your life? There is no other way but to take responsibility of your life and actions. So that is very, very necessary. So this is a small conversation that I had with one of the person. I was 22 that time, and I was very confused in my career. And just being passed out of an engineering college, I was giving all kinds of exams. I gave exams for doing MTech, I gave CAT, I gave GATE, all kinds of exams I gave. And I went to the gym to work out one day. And that day I got to know that this gym is owned by a person who's only 24 years old. That's just 2 years elder to me. And I always had this thing inside of me that I want to do something of my own. I don't know what. But I was also this person who's so scared, ki what will happen with the own thing that I'm trying to do. So that time when I spoke to the person who owned the gym and I asked him that, what if everything fails? What if everything doesn't work out the way you want? Because I was this catastrophic person in my head. And that person said to me that if anything bad happens, it's my responsibility. I'll analyze and I'll improve. If anything good happens, it's my responsibility. Now this is like a normal knowledge in public interest that we everybody knows. But that time, seeing in front of me that a person who's just 2 years elder to me has done so much, has done so much by doing simply one thing, taking responsibility for his actions, then why can't I? And that was a very pivotal moment for me to start doing what I really like. And slowly I could full time do what I really like. but it started with that small thing. And the whole time, what really worked for me was this appreciation and this unconditional compassion that you have for yourself. This is very important. Now, there is a slight thing, which is the last point, that when it comes to setting boundaries, for example, you want to do your business, or you want to dedicate, let's say, more time to your work or your gym or your workouts, you'll have to say no to something. Now, when I talk to ladies, one thing is saying no will make them a bad person. This is one belief. Second belief is that angry people are not good people. When you have seen somebody in your life who has been that expression of anger which is not so healthy, there are possibilities that you may repress your own anger. You may not speak up at the time where it needs to be spoken up. And repressing anger will make you a person who victimizes themselves and blames everybody else. So when you repress anger, you're not able to set healthy boundaries. And anger is not always a bad emotion. Anger will tell you that what is it that you cannot tolerate, where your boundaries are really crossed. For example, let's say that unfairness makes you angry, that there being a lot of discrimination in people based on caste or gender makes you angry. Isn't it a good anger, instead of saying that my anger is bad? So when you know that somebody is being unfairly treated, you will feel angry. And out of a lot of anger, so many, let's say, freedom fighters have done things. There have been rebels who have done good things out of their anger, and it's not always been destructive. So you may not want to act upon your anger, but feeling the anger is not an issue. Feeling your sadness is not an issue. And when you say that, oh, all of these emotions I shouldn't feel, somebody else should feel, or you want to blame people for your life experience and your emotional experience, that time you know that your sense of self is very blur, right? You have become this emotional sponge. You feel that everybody else's emotions is my responsibility. Even if you are the child, even if it's a small child, he or she might feel that my parents' emotions is also my responsibility. I have to take care of their mood. Or my partner's emotion is also my responsibility. Let people have their emotional experience. And this over giving, it does not only happen at only physical level where you're giving over giving time and energy, but it also happens at a very emotional level also, where that somebody is sad, something happened to someone, and you want to go and quickly fix their emotions. You're not letting people have their emotional experience. So when you work on yourself, you see that as your sense of self improves, there are clear demarcations between what is your responsibility, what is not your responsibility, what are your emotions, what are not your emotions. So, this is how you reduce your people pleasing tendencies. And it's a persistent effort. This is how you learn to validate yourself and you become that confident person, because confidence comes from actions. Confidence does not come from somebody else saying that, oh, you're a great person. Confidence comes from saying that even if something goes wrong, I know how to keep things moving forward. So that was all that I had to present for today. Thank you so much, Neha.
Okay, cool. So before we open it for open discussion for everybody else, I have a few questions. Okay,
Yes.
I think it might improve our understanding of it. So
Yes.
number one, do you think कि औरतों के अंदर फिट इन करने की टेंडेंसी
Hmm.
मर्दों से ज्यादा होती
Yes.
है? एंड इस टेंडेंसी की वजह से इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर अ वुमन कि वो अपनी लाइफ की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले सके.
Yes, it is difficult.
हाँ, व्हाट आई हैव नोटिस इज कि बहुत सारी औरतें बहुत कुछ करना चाहती हैं, दे वांट टू इम्प्रूव सो मच, दे वांट टू डू सो मच, लेकिन इवेंचुअली अब जिम का एग्जांपल लेते हैं. ओके,
Hmm.
एक दिन वो जिम आती है, दूसरे दिन जिम आती है, तीसरे दिन इट्स ऑल अबाउट व्हाट हर हस्बैंड वांट्स,
Hmm.
राइट? तो वो फिट इन कर, पहली चीज तो वो फिट इन करती है कि मेरी सारी सहेलियां जा रही है तो आई विल आल्सो गो, और दूसरा फिर वो कोशिश करती है कि शी इज फीलिंग अनेबल टू टेक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर हर लाइफ. एंड आई हैव सीन दिस हैपन ऑन हंड्रेड्स ऑफ ओकेशंस दैट आपको, अगर आपको एक मर्द से बात करनी है, एक पुरुष से बात करनी है, तो आपको उसका उसका एक हाँ या ना चाहिए. बट अगर आपको एक औरत से करनी है तो अगर वो अनमैरिड है तो उसके माँ बाप का हाथ भी चाहिए, अगर मैरिड है फिर पति का भी उसमें हाथ चाहिए. सो व्हाट हैव बीन योर एक्सपीरियंसेस रिगार्डिंग दिस?
यस, सो एज अ कोच जब ये क्वेश्चन आता है, बहुत आता है, तो मैं यही पूछती हूँ, अगर ना बोल दिया तो फिर क्या आप ये नहीं करोगे? और अगर नहीं करोगे या करोगे तो व्हाट विल बी द रिजल्ट्स ऑफ इट? तो जब वो ये कहती है ना कि हमारे दिमाग में बहुत बड़ी चीजें हम सोच लेते हैं, वी थिंक दैट ओ दिस पर्सन इज गोइंग टू बी सुपर डिसअपॉइंटेड विथ मी, और दिस पर्सन इज गोइंग टू मे बी नॉट टॉक टू मी, तो वी गो टू दैट इमेजिनेटिव एक्सटेंट हमारे दिमाग में एक्चुअली. तो वहां पर जाकर उनको ये रियलाइज करना कि आप जितना बुरा सोच रहे हो ना कि होगा, वो शायद चीज उतनी बुरी है नहीं. और ठीक है, इफ नॉट 1 hour, देन हाउ मच कैन यू डू समथिंग दैट यू रियली वांट टू डू? पहले तो ये फाइंड आउट करना बहुत जरूरी है कि व्हेन अ वुमेन इज सेइंग कि मैं सहेलियों का देख के कर रही हूँ, या मैं किसी और का सुन के कर रही हूँ, या मुझे ये मेरे लिए सच्ची में करना है. दैट रेजिस्टेंस दैट कम्स फ्रॉम इनसाइड, it comes because so many people are telling us so many things, but when you want to do it for yourself, the resistance is very less. तो वहां पे समझाना पड़ता है बार बार कि is it really something that you want to do? देन यू सी की रेजिस्टेंस कम हो जाता है, और वो जो बहुत बड़ा इमेजिन करके रखा है कि इसका बहुत बुरा रिजल्ट आ सकता है, ये देखना कि वो उतना बुरा नहीं होगा. और इट्स ओके टू फॉर पीपल टू बी डिसअपॉइंटेड. हमें ये सिखाया गया है मोस्टली औरतों को कि किसी को डिसअपॉइंट करना गलत बात है. किसी को डिसअपॉइंट करना क्यों गलत बात है? आपको किसी ने डिसअपॉइंट नहीं किया क्या? राइट, सो दैट्स देयर. इट्स ओके फॉर पीपल टू बी डिसअपॉइंटेड, इट्स ओके फॉर यू ऑल्सो टू बी डिसअपॉइंटेड.
Acha, what age group of women do you mostly talk to?
Okay, so I'll talk to the last 18 to 42 is the age group that I've spoken to.
Okay, तो इस एज ग्रुप में औरतों का सबसे कॉमन प्रॉब्लम क्या देखने में आता है?
सबसे कॉमन प्रॉब्लम आई टॉक अबाउट, पहले जो पहला वाला एज ग्रुप है टिल द 35 या 33 का एज ग्रुप है, जहाँ पे ह्यूज सेंस ऑफ कंपटीशन एंड वी बिकमिंग एग्जैक्टली लाइक मेन, instead of really nurturing कि हमें कैसे रहना है, how do you really want to live. There can be a woman who really wants to be competitive at a certain edge and she wants to live like that. Every woman is different, but not every woman really wants it. एंड सबका देख देख के हम भी वही करने लगते हैं. वी हैव आल्सो स्टार्टेड बिकमिंग लाइक मैन, जहाँ पे सैलरीज कंपेयर होने लगी है, तुम्हारे पास क्या है, मेरे पास क्या है. एंड व्हेन वी सी द older systems of women, तो more than this the discussions would be sitting together, कुछ वो कर रहे हैं, and they are sort of supporting each other's growth rather than being very very competitive about it. And this huge pressure onto themselves कि सब कुछ परफेक्टली होना चाहिए और टाइम से होना चाहिए, बिकॉज मोर देन द सोसाइटीज प्रेशर, उनका खुद का प्रेशर है कि इतने एज में ये होना चाहिए और उतने एज में वो होना चाहिए. ये है इन गर्ल्स, इवन टुडे इट्स देयर, द एक्सपेक्टेशन हैंगओवर इट इज कॉल्ड.
तो अगर कोई लड़की है, शी वांट्स टू इम्प्रूव हरसेल्फ, और उसको बहुत ये फील होता है कि मैं बंधी हुई हूँ या मैं कुछ नहीं कर पा रही हूँ, आई एम अनेबल.
Yeah, you went mute, yeah.
ओके, कहाँ तक सुना था?
कि बहुत लिमिटेशंस है और वो कुछ नहीं.
राइट. तो अगर किसी लड़की को ऐसा महसूस होता है कि मेरे जिंदगी में बहुत लिमिटेशंस हैं, व्हाट इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप दैट शी कैन टेक to become better and to start taking responsibility?
Yes. So, when we have a lot of limitations onto our life, our attention is towards limitations. But there is something very small action that you can do. Let's say कि कोई भी resources किसी लड़की के पास नहीं है, but कुछ छोटा सा एक resource हो सकता है, जैसे she may have, let's say, a mobile जिसमें से देखकर दूसरी औरतों को देखकर वो कुछ सीखे, या she can learn a small skill and वहां से वो कुछ बड़ा करे. जो भी करना है, जो सबसे छोटी possibility है, सबसे छोटी, स्टार्ट विद दैट. उससे क्या होगा कि योर अटेंशन विल फर्स्ट गो टुवर्ड्स मैं क्या कर सकती हूँ. क्योंकि ये जो नेगेटिव लूप है कि मैं क्या क्या नहीं कर सकती और मेरी लाइफ कैसे खराब हो चुकी है, दिस कैन टेक यू इन अ वेरी डार्क स्पेस मेंटली. सो जस्ट टेकिंग दैट वन सिल्वर लाइन और उसको लेकर आगे काम करना बहुत मदद करता है.
ओके. और तुम्हारे एक्सपीरियंस में औरतों के अंदर जो नेगेटिव इमोशंस होते हैं, मेरा एक्सपीरियंस ये है कि औरतों के अंदर थोड़े ज्यादा होते हैं एज कम्पेयर टू मैन. वी आर ऑल्सो मोर प्रोन टू हार्मोनल चेंजेस एंड एवरीथिंग. सो हमारा डिजाइन ही कुछ ऐसा है दैट वी आर मोर प्रोन टू नेगेटिव इमोशंस. So yeah, we do have more negative emotions, but what do you think ये negative emotions किस हद तक खुद के बनाए हुए हैं और किस हद तक सोसाइटी के द्वारा बिल्ड किए हुए हैं?
तो सोसाइटी की कंडीशनिंग तो है और वो बहुत टाइम से चली आ रही है, सो उसको नहीं बोल सकते कि सोसाइटी का कोई रोल ही नहीं है, इट्स देयर। और किसी के घर में बच्चा पैदा हो जाता है, कुछ भी हो जाता है, देयर सो मेनी एडवाइजेस हर डायरेक्शन से आने लगती है, एंड द मॉम ऑल्सो फील्स कि मेरा बच्चा पैदा हो, मुझे पता है कि उसको क्या करना है, जो भी है। सो सोसाइटी हैज अ रोल टू प्ले इन इट। एंड व्हेन इट कम्स टू इमोशंस एंड विमेन नोइंग कि हम बिल्ट है इस तरह से कि हमें इंटेंसिटी ज्यादा फील होगी, और कुछ कुछ औरतें ज्यादा भी सेंसिटिव हो सकती है कि आई फील अ लॉट ऑफ इंटेंसिटी, इंस्टेड ऑफ सप्रेसिंग दैट इमोशन दैट टाइम, एंड यू विल फील कि नहीं इट्स अनबेरेबल, मुझसे नहीं हो सकता ये प्रोसेस, बट सेइंग कि आई विल बी एबल टू प्रोसेस इट, रेजिस्ट जो हम करते हैं इमोशंस को, इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट सेइंग कि आई एम ओपन टू फील दिस इमोशन, वो बहुत मदद करता है। बिकॉज इमोशंस की साइकिल इज लाइक अ 90 सेकेंड साइकिल। इफ यू स्टार्ट टू प्रोसेस इट वेरी मेंटली एंड लॉजिकली ना, तो वो एक्सटेंड होने लगती है, वो ओवर थिंकिंग में कन्वर्ट हो जाती है। ओवर थिंकिंग अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स, आई एम नॉट सेइंग ऑलवेज, अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स इज अंडर फीलिंग। तो women learning to process her emotions makes her life very simple। सोसाइटी का एड ऑन होता रहता है, बट वो पता चल जाता है कि मुझे कहाँ बाउंड्री सेट करनी है, और ये भी डिसाइड करना कि ये मेरा इमोशन है, ये दूसरों का इमोशन है। बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम हम स्पंजेस जैसे होते हैं कभी कभी, कि सब कुछ नेगेटिव चल रहा है तो हमने भी बहुत नेगेटिविटी ऑब्जॉर्व कर ली, बट सेइंग कि नहीं अभी माहौल ऐसा है, लेट मी डिसोसिएट थोड़ी देर के लिए, मैं अपना जो भी आप प्रैक्टिस करते हो, लेट्स से मेडिटेशन करते हो, पूजा करते हो, जिम करते हो, थोड़ा सा डिटैच होके वापस आ गए, दिस हेल्प्स टू वुमेन अ लॉट।
So what you're saying is whenever we feel a strong emotion, especially a negative emotion, we need to take a step back and not participate in that emotion at that moment. Take a step back, think about it maybe, and then come back to the moment.
Yeah, so what I'm saying here is, yes, do take a step back, because when you're enmeshed with so many other things, you may not be able to differentiate, okay? So you'll be feeling anger and guilt and so many things at the same time. ये हमको sessions में हमेशा मिलता है। Take a step back and feel it instead of thinking about it. Feel it, फिर उससे related आपको कुछ analysis करना है तो वो later on करो. Feeling is first, then is thinking, and then come back.
Okay. And तुमको क्या डिफरेंस लगता है इन हैंडलिंग, स्पेशली इमोशन हैंडलिंग या फिर नेगेटिव इमोशंस में, बिटवीन वर्किंग वुमेन एंड हाउसवाइफ्स?
Okay, so with working women, and I have mostly worked with women, you know, जो working women होने के बाद housewives बनी है, housewives के साथ भी अगर काम किया हो तो working women actually get a very less amount of time to process it, because अगर बहुत जगह वो ऑफिस में भी ट्रिगर हुई है ना, तो वो वहां के वहां रिएक्ट नहीं कर सकती, और हम एक पब्लिक प्लेस में, तो वी डू हैव अ मास्क, सब लगाते हैं एक मास्क, तो वो घर आने के बाद अगेन शी इज इन्वॉल्व इन द हाउस होल्ड थिंग्स, राइट? तो वो एक टाइम मिला ही नहीं वेर यू सॉर्ट ऑफ प्रोसेस दैट इमोशन। सो आई से इवन फॉर वर्किंग वुमेन और हाउसवाइफ, कोई भी लड़की हो, हैव सम टाइम इन द डे जहाँ पे आप पूरा दिन एक बार स्कैन कर लो कि मेरा कुछ कहीं प्रोसेस करना रह गया क्या आज के दिन का, आइदर राइट इट और प्रोसेस इट, और फील इट और प्रोसेस इट, बट दैट्स देयर। सेकेंड चीज, हाउसवाइफ का ऐसा है कि जब बाकी के लोग घर आते हैं, शी इज हैविंग दिस एक्सपेक्टेशन कि मुझे अटेंशन सबसे मिले, वो लोग मेरी बात सुने, राइट? तो वहां पे भी उसका इमोशन कुछ खास प्रोसेस नहीं हो रहा है, एंड शी ऑल्सो नीड्स टू लर्न कि मैं अपना इमोशन कैसे प्रोसेस करूं। तो ये लर्निंग पार्ट सेम है, बट ये प्ले आउट कैसे करता है ये बहुत डिफरेंट है। That's what
So I think working women have a lot of pressure, more pressure than a housewife, because they have to handle two things at once.
Yes, and the nature of responsibility is being very different. Even housewives have a lot of responsibilities. I'm not denying the responsibilities, but जब responsibilities एकदम ही polar हो, जहाँ पे आपको बाहर आपका एक अलग ही side, काम करता है, और अंदर आने के बाद आपसे expectation एकदम opposite हो जाती है। बहुत बार ऐसे लोग पूछते हैं कि ऑफिस से आने के बाद कि ये औरत इतना चिड़चिड़ क्यों करती है, एंड women have said this कि मुझे चिड़चिड़ होती है ऑफिस से आने के बाद, राइट? तो प्रेशर तो है, एंड इट ऑल्सो बीइंग द नेचर ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज बहुत अलग है।
ओके, फाइनल क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम मी। औरतें गुस्से से इतना डरती क्यों? Why are we so scared of being labeled as angry?
Yes, because एक बात तो है कि if you have seen very negative reactions of anger uh, in your childhood especially, कि किसी का एंगर बहुत आपने देखा है कि नेगेटिव रिजल्ट्स क्रिएट करता है, तो हम दिमाग में एक बिलीफ बना लेते हैं कि एंगर इज बैड। अगर मैं एंग्री हो जाऊंगी तो मैं उस पर्सन जैसी हो जाऊंगी जिसने सबके साथ गलत किया। तो एंगर का या फिर जो अथॉरिटी ने एंगर का यूज किया, हमने उसका सही यूज नहीं देखा, राइट? पहले तो दैट मेक्स यू फील दैट एंगर मेक्स यू अ बैड पर्सन। सेकेंड थिंग है कि कंडीशनिंग भी है कि मे बी सबके घर में नहीं हुई होगी या सबके समाज में नहीं हुई होगी, बट कुछ कुछ में होती है कि विमेन आर सपोज टू बी दिस सॉफ्ट, और फिर जब आप सॉफ्ट गुड़िया जैसे रहते हो तो सब आपको अप्रिशिएट करते हैं, और जो लड़कियां ब्लंट होती है घर में बोलती है उसको बोलते हैं कि ये कलेश करती है घर में, शी क्रिएट्स द प्रॉब्लम्स इन द हाउस, ऐसे भी बोला जाता है। बट वो बहुत बचपन की बात होती है। आफ्टर सर्टेन टाइम आप खुद से पूछो कि कब मुझे मेरी तलवार मेरी जबान से हो, या कैसे भी यू हैव टू, यू वांट टू प्रोटेक्ट योरसेल्फ, वो यूज करनी है, वरना आपको एंगर का इमोशन दिया ही नहीं होता इफ एंगर वाज दैट बैड। एंगर से बहुत अच्छी अच्छी चीजें भी हुई है, एज आई सेड, फ्रीडम फाइटर्स, रिबेल्स। एंगर ही तो था ना जो उनके अंदर आया कि ये जो हो रहा है वो अनफेयर है। तो वंस यू एज एन अथॉरिटी लर्न टू यूज एंगर पॉजिटिवली, फिर आपको एंगर के साथ प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी और आपको गुस्से वाले लोगों से डर भी नहीं लगेगा।
So if everybody starts looking at this video, they'll stop getting scared of me. I don't think that's a good idea. Okay, with this we'll stop the today's meeting here, and after that recording stop hote hi, we'll open up for everything. So thank you, Rutuja, for the wonderful presentation. We liked it a lot.